One thing that really annoys me about using espresso machines in Europe is the eco mode that automatically shuts the machine off after about 10 minutes. As a hobbyist, I want the machine to be properly preheated before brewing. So today, I'll show you two ways I removed the energy saving circuit in this machine. The easiest solution and the more elegant one. Quick warnings before you do the same in yours. First, this may void your warranty. Second, this is what I did on my Delonghi Stilosa EC235, a 220 volts machine sold in Europe. Yours may be slightly different. And third, if you don't know exactly what you're doing, don't do this. You're working with mains voltage and you assume all the risk. Back to the point, for your safety, unplug the machine, remove the drip tray and the water reservoir. I also recommend taking pictures or short videos during the disassembly process so you remember the sequence and where each screw and connector goes when it's time to reassemble everything. Now, let's disassemble the machine. Turn the machine upside down and remove the two Phillips and two Torx screws. In addition to the screws, the bottom panel is also held in place by two plastic clips which are a bit tricky to disengage. To release them, carefully insert a flathead screwdriver or a plastic pry tool into the seam and gently pry until the clips disengage. First, let me show you the easiest solution. Disconnect the wires from the power switch. Then, using a flathead screwdriver, press on the side of the switch and push it forward to release it from the main casing. This original switch has a spring that keeps it returning to the same position, and we are going to replace it with a similar rocker switch, but without the spring. One important detail, this new switch must be rated for 6 amps at 250 volts, not the 1 or 2 amps that are more commonly available for DC applications. I'll leave a link in the description for the exact model that I used. Now, insert the new switch into the machine, make sure it's firmly seated, and reconnect the wires. If you wanted the easiest way, you're done. But there's a downside in this approach. The Eco mode uses a timer that turns the machine on and off using short electrical pulses. Then, after making your coffee, when you want to turn it off, you will need to toggle the switch off, on, and off again within about 1 second to simulate the pulse that turns the machine off. But I have a more elegant solution, removing the timer entirely. The problem is that this timer has 5 wires connected and the power switch has 2. So what should I do with all these wires? To bypass the timer safely, I followed the wires and drew a schematic to understand the logic and how the timer works. You can take a screenshot. This is the version with the timer, and here you can take another one without the timer. Back to the machine, let me explain the wiring using the labels from my schematic. You will see a brown wire connected to the power switch, which I labeled S1, and it goes to T4 on the timer. The gray wire, which I labeled S2, goes to T3 on the timer. There's also a blue wire connected to the board, which I labeled T1. I know you're seeing TB1 on the label, but consider it the T1 in this schematic. The black wire is T2. Finally, there's a piggyback connector with blue and white wires, which I labeled T5. T5 will no longer be used, so insulate the T5 connector with electrical tape. T1, T2 and T3 must be connected together. To do that, I reused the brown wire. One end uses a piggyback connector and the other end was originally connected to T4. The piggyback connector is used to connect the power switch to the black wire T2. The other end of the brown wire was connected to the blue wire T1. Since both connectors were female, I crimped a new male Spade connector onto the blue wire. because I accidentally used a blue 16 to 14 AWG Spade connector. I also had to replace the female connector on the brown wire. So make sure to use a red Spade connector and you will have to crimp just once. Before closing the machine, it's a good idea to test everything. If you turn it on, it starts heating and the pump works, you're good to close the machine. If you want to be more conservative, let it run for about 20 minutes and watch the green light cycle on, off and on again, especially if you didn't remove the timer. You can also switch to steam mode to confirm that the green lights are going on and off there as well. After these tests, put the bottom panel back in place, the two clips should click and the panel should fit snugly. Then put the screws back and you're done. Now, if you want to fix squirty extractions, brew at lower pressures, use flow profiling and apply a softer pre-infusion, subscribe so you don't miss the next video where I'll show the dimmer mod. Thanks for watching and ciao!